Well, the war is in West Asia, but its economic shockwaves could reach the Indian wallet, the kitchen, and our fuel tanks. And on In Your Interest, we ask, with the Prime Minister's 7 appeals, is India preparing for a wisely global storm, or is it asking its citizens to yet again shoulder this economic burden? With the global economy now facing fresh turbulence and our foreign exchange reserves feeling the heat, the Prime Minister has issued a 7-point appeal to every citizen. We'll break that down. But this isn't just about personal habits. It's a direct call to protect India's economic borders. First, he has urged people to reduce non-essential purchases of gold. This is important because gold imports are one of the major reasons for foreign exchange flowing out of the country. Second, he has asked citizens to postpone any unnecessary foreign travel and instead choose domestic tourism, which would save foreign currency and also support our own tourism industry. The third appeal is to encourage work from home wherever possible and hold more virtual meetings. This can help cut down fuel consumption. Number 4, the Prime Minister has suggested greater use of public transport. We're talking about carpooling, electric vehicles to bring down the use of petrol and diesel. Number 5 on the list, the Prime Minister wants families to reduce consumption of edible oil, which not only lowers our import dependence but is also good for health. In the 6th appeal, the Prime Minister has called for promoting natural farming methods so that we can reduce imports of chemical fertilizers. And finally, the 7th appeal is to give preference to Swadeshi and made in India products over the imported goods. This, he believes, will strengthen our domestic industry and create more jobs.
साथियों, हमने कोरोना के समय में वर्क फ्रॉम होम की, ऑनलाइन मीटिंग्स की, वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंस की, ऐसी अनेक व्यवस्थाएं विकसित की और हमें आदत भी हो गई थी। आज समय की मांग ऐसी है कि उन व्यवस्थाओं को हम फिर से शुरू करें, क्योंकि दुनिया में पेट्रोल डीजल इतना ज्यादा महंगा हो गया है, पहले से कई गुना ज्यादा कीमतें बढ़ गई है। तो हम सबका दायित्व है कि पेट्रोल डीजल की खरीद पर जो विदेशी मुद्रा खर्च होती है, पेट्रोल डीजल बचाकर हमें वो मुद्रा भी बचानी है। जैसे आजकल जो विदेशों में शादियों का, विदेशों में घूमने का, विदेशों में वैकेशन पर जाने का मिडिल क्लास में कल्चर बढ़ता जा रहा है। हमें तय करना होगा कि जब ये संकट का काल है और हमारी देशभक्ति हमें ललकार रही है, तो कम से कम 1 साल के लिए हमें विदेशों में जाने की बातों को टालना चाहिए। देश हित में हमको ये तय करना पड़ेगा कि साल भर तक घर में कोई भी फंक्शन हो, कोई भी कार्यक्रम हो, हम सोने के गहने नहीं खरीदेंगे।
Well, these appeals come at a time when India's forex reserves have slipped and import bills are rising. Crude oil imports are a major worry, especially with tensions in the Strait of Hormuz affecting global supplies. Experts fear that higher import costs could put pressure on the rupee and push up inflation. And there is also a risk of current account deficit widening further. If these measures are followed sincerely, the benefits could be meaningful. Less gold buying would directly cut forex outflow. Reduced foreign travel would save foreign currency and boost local tourism. Working from home and using public transport can lower our oil imports. Buying Indian products would support our factories and the workers. However, there are some real challenges over here as well. Curbs on gold could affect the jewelry industry and the many people who depend on it for their livelihood. Shifting to natural farming may create short-term difficulties for the farmers. Many people may find it hard to change their travel and lifestyle habits, and since all these appeals are voluntary, their overall impact may remain limited unless supported by stronger policy steps.
This is rather a dramatic appeal or directive from the Prime Minister, where he is mooting the citizens of this country to go back to working from home, to avoid buying gold, which is the go-to safety investment for the average Indian. Use more public transport, avoid using private transport, cut down on oil while cooking, then to reduce fertilizers and move to natural farming, then to adopt Swadeshi and stop buying imported goods, and then to avoid foreign travel. These are all very, very dramatic appeals, if not a directive. if the Prime Minister is making this appeal, what is the true situation which India is facing? I think it's important that the government takes the people of this country into confidence. To do that, they must call for a session of parliament and apprise us of what is happening, because this is not normal. No other country has given this kind of advisory, directive, appeal to anywhere else in the world. Are we facing some serious economic crisis?
ये सारी जो बातें सरकार बोल रही है, प्रधानमंत्री बोल रहे हैं, इतना कैजुअली एक पब्लिक मीटिंग में बोल रहे हैं, मुझे लगता है कि पूरी जनता को, संसद को लेना चाहिए कॉन्फिडेंस के अंदर कि ऐसा क्या हुआ कि जो युद्ध चल रहा है खाड़ी में, सब जानते हैं उसको, लेकिन जो वैश्विक स्थिति है उसके बारे में एक्चुअली में हमारा क्या स्टैंड है, हम कहाँ खड़े हैं, उस पूरा एक खुलासा करना चाहिए। अब चुनाव खत्म हो गए हैं तो अब सब गैस के दाम बढ़ रहे हैं, पेट्रोल के दाम बढ़ रहे हैं, लेकिन ये बचत करना, सोना नहीं खरीदना, वर्क फ्रॉम होम करना, ये कोई इतना कैजुअली नहीं आप सलाह दे सकते हैं।
Well, so the opposition training their guns at the central government over here as well. Dr. Sharad Kohli, senior economist and founder KCC Group with us. Mr. Nirmal Ibrahim, columnist and political analyst with us on the broadcast. And the big questions that we're going to collectively be decoding: can voluntary changes by citizens bring down our import dependence in a meaningful way? Or do we need bigger reforms to boost exports and local manufacturing? In the long run, what steps are needed to make the Indian economy less vulnerable to global oil shocks and forex pressures and much more? Dr. Kohli, how do we look at this? When the Prime Minister asks citizens to avoid gold purchases and foreign travel, is this precautionary economics or a sign of a deeper concern? And can voluntary behavioral changes like working from home, fuel conservation meaningfully protect the economy at this point in time?
Good evening, Kabir, to you and TV9 viewers. I think I was surprised by listening to the, the bites that you played just now from some of the, I don't know which party they belong to. I don't even want to, because I don't come from the world of politics, so I don't want to name the party here. But this is. I thought any politician who's in a senior position must understand basic economics. This should be a prerequisite for a politician to become a politician, because you can only govern people when you understand basic economics. And the basic economics goes like this: that we are simply running out of our forex reserves. If the price of crude oil rises from $65 to 126 at one point and keeps moving up and down like a rubber ball, with yes and no on the truce in West Asia crisis. Obviously, one day we feel that probably Donald Trump or Iran may reach a deal. The other day we feel not. Then again the third day. So I think by Friday there was an expectation of a truce coming. But it didn't come, which is why Prime Minister got worried that this seems to be just dragging on and on, because every single day, the oil marketing companies, Reserve Bank of India and Government of India were keeping a watch. And then when they found that this war doesn't seem to be getting over in a hurry, so we need to be prepared to take a hit on our current account deficit, CAD as it's called. And, we are gradually draining out our forex reserves. So the root of the problem is forex reserves. We are gradually draining them out. They went below $700 billion. And for the benefit of TV9 viewers, I would like to inform here that Forex Reserve comprises of not just dollars lying in stacks with Reserve Bank of India vault. It comprises of special drawing rights with IMF. It comprises of gold as well. So it's not just dollars and dollars. So RBI also has to intervene at times, by swapping. These are called dollar swaps or rupee swaps, whatever you want to call it. When RBI throws a dollar or sells dollars in the market to stabilize the price, that also consumes dollars. And we should not forget $140 billion of crude imported in the FY 25-26. Number two, this was at the top. Number two were electronic equipments, because we are doing very well on mobile phones, which we are mostly assembling here. So we need a lot of electronic components, which we import. And number three comes gold, $72 billion of gold imported.
So what do you think, Mr. Kohli? How realistic is it to expect these behavioral changes at a mass scale in our country simply through these appeals? Indians are not going to suddenly stop the weddings or the gold purchases or the travel. So where are we headed?
Well, I find Prime Minister to be the biggest brand ambassador. If something like Jhalmuri can probably play a role in winning the West Bengal elections.
Okay.
And, if he asks you to play a thali and people start doing, he asks you to light a diya and people do that. I think he's got an excellent brand value. The biggest brand ambassador in this country at this point of time is the Prime Minister. So if he tells people to do something, I'll take an example to answer your question. Even if gold consumption goes to half from $72 billion to to $36 billion. Well, $36 billion for the benefit of viewers is more than what America has spent over the 2 months in the Iranian war. Take into account all the jets which have fallen down, all the missiles, Tomahawk missiles, which they have ran out of, very, very expensive. So I think we need to keep in mind that every drop matters. So when people change their lifestyle, and by the way, some of the things mentioned here are also health related, non-use of fertilizers, use of or non-use of refined oil or palm oil or whatever which you are importing. They are good for your health anyway. So I think people have to bring changes. And but there is one thing which I would like to say here. I think the government needs to give directive to all the states. I see those long cavalcades of 25 to 30 cars moving behind chief ministers and MLAs and MPs.
Well, now that you've pointed it out, the Prime Minister made these appeals and then headed for a massive roadshow right after that with an entire motorcade. I mean, now that you pointed it out. Mr. Kohli, I'm going to come back to you. Nirmal's been patiently waiting. Let me bring in Mr. Abraham. Look at this, Nirmal. Basic economics, that was Mr. Kohli says. And of course, he's smartly played down the Congress, politicians, thrashing of the center when it comes to this. Just a couple of days back, Rahul Gandhi had called the Prime Minister inflation man, and those kind of, jibes and the war of words continues. I'm going to come back to understand, what happens first if this crude price remains above the $100 mark. But the COVID era parallels, they're unavoidable. Politically, is that helping the government or hurting it? This is about Forex reserves, is what Mr. Kohli says. But can this become a larger political debate?
I wouldn't say so, because if people are informed of what really happened in the last 5-6 years, they wouldn't be, you wouldn't be using that as a political tool, because it isn't just the government's fault. Whenever they had an opportunity, for instance, when oil prices were low, they did buy a lot of reserves, but we didn't have the capacity to store those reserves. That was the only issue that we faced. And yes, we are paying the price for that, no doubt. But there were many external factors. COVID was one factor that started it off. And then right after we came out of that, we had the Russia-Ukraine war that also affected oil prices, which in turn affects the value of the rupee. And then when we try to come out of that, we were suddenly hit by the Middle East, the West Asia crisis. Yeah. So there is a whole list of external factors that played a part. Along with that, the US Federal Reserve rate, that played a part too, because as we were facing this issue, US Federal Reserve rates were hiked, which meant a lot of FPIs left India and invested in the US. Add to that the tariff war that we had with Trump, which also affected us. So I wouldn't put the blame entirely on the government. Having said that, there were opportunities that we could have used. Did we use it? Yes, but did we use it entirely? No. So considering what the government had to go through in the last 5-6 years in terms of external pressures, I think it's understandable for the citizens of India, and some of these things may actually help us in the long run, is what I feel. But as you rightly mentioned in your introduction, many things, including reducing travel, also means that tour operators, travel operators, air carriers will be affected. Airline carriers will be affected. Fertilizers, you cannot slash 50% chemical fertilizers all of a sudden. That will affect the yield. So yeah, in the short run, we may have to pay the price, but in the long run, I think it will eventually turn out to be good. China did it in 2015. The same thing that the Prime Minister mentioned, China already had started in 2015, because of which they're not affected at all today.
We took so much burden, work from home. I know it saves fuel, but India spent the last 2 years, Nirmal, pushing the same employees back to offices to revive the urban economic activity, and now we're going back to working from home. How does that play out?
For companies, not so good, because many organizations were return to office, RTO. So when all of a sudden, if this hits, it hasn't been a mandate yet, I believe. So if it does hit, yes, it will be bad, but it will be bad for some employees too, because unlike in the UK, we don't have any disconnection scheme here, so people will have to work longer hours, I would say. But then that definitely affects productivity for sure. So yeah, that's what I said. I mean, initial phase, we are going to pay the price, but in the long run, it's good for the nation. And considering that we had a lot of external factors at play, I think we could just let the government decide on their own what to do.
Mr. Kohli, if crude remains above the $100 mark, what could the ordinary Indians feel first? Of course, we're already, the government is sort of hinting at inflation. There is rupee pressure, fuel price hikes. Could that be up next? What's your assessment?
Well, 30,000 crores is what the OMCs, or they're called oil marketing companies, or they're bleeding every single month at this point of time. So there's only going to be a limit after which they can bleed. So I think a call will have to be taken. I think, I mean, we are talking of work from home. We are talking of so many other things. This is just an advisory. It's an appeal made. There's no law which says you'll be arrested if you go and buy gold from a shop. There is no such thing. People are contemplating there's going to be a lockdown and this and that. I think we are just overestimating things. He's made an advisory. And I think each day in war, Kabir, matters. For me, as an economist, and the way I've been analyzing for the last more than 2 months now, I think every day is a new day as far as war is concerned. Every day there's a new statement, new development. Sometimes, Strait of Hormuz, there's a chance of it opening. And I think what I'm saying is reflective. If you try and plot the crude price over the last 2 months, you will find that every day seems to be a new development, a new statement, and the market is swaying to the statements. So I think it'll be very difficult to make a long-term policy and make a long-term commitment. And especially, let's not forget, there's President Trump. Morning, there's another President Trump. Afternoon, there is a second President Trump. And the next evening or morning, there's another President Trump. So we are talking of a very, very uncertain environment.
Yeah, very volatile environment.
To make a comment which is sustainable for, let's say, 3 days or 4 days is a very, very tough call. So I think we should just take each day. For now, as things stand today, maybe if crude oil price go below $100 and stay there for let's say for a week, these things may not even be needed for that matter. Although
these are all appeals. You're absolutely right, and these are all voluntary decisions.
Let me just say something. Let me just add something, Kabir. I feel that those days of $60 to $70 of oil is history now. I think $80 or $90 is going to be the new normal now. Now, even that is going to be a very tough call for OMCs.
It is.
So having said that, what I wanted to say is we should be prepared to go to the petrol stations with new prices over the next few days if this oil price continues to behave like a rubber ball the way it is doing right now.
But still, there are so many questions that one has to understand, because gold is, so emotionally and culturally embedded in our country, in the Indian households. And if people were to actually change their behavior, listen to the Prime Minister and all those appeals, this could unintentionally hurt India's jewelry industry. Let's say, that's something, of course, you pointed out that, there's a lot of good that comes with it, edible oil, the health factor, the wedding economy, the small traders, they're all going to be massively hit. Just like Nirmal pointed out, the trade association, the transportation sector, that's going to take a hit as well. But, you put your points, $80 to $90, that's going to be the new normal. Nirmal, final word, final 30 seconds. I again want to come to the politics of this all. If this is a playbook of shooting yourself in the foot, why do you think the opposition has reacted so sharply to what the government has described as voluntary national appeals? It's not been mandatory, just like Mr. Kohli said.
Yeah, I mean, opposition is just doing opposition things. You could say that because that's what opposition is meant to do, right? But I think they are also fear-mongering, saying that this advisory could soon turn into a mandate and you have to be worried about that. I don't think that's the case. We're not going through COVID, but you never know. There is a war going on. If things get worse, yes, but then we should be ready for that as an economy, because it is, a collective effort at the moment, unfortunately.
All right. So from work from home to cutting fuel use and even avoiding gold purchases, Prime Minister Modi's 7 appeals have triggered memories of the COVID era all over again. And of course, how we beat, the pandemic era as well. But is this visionary caution in the face of global crisis? Mr. Kohli says it's basic economics. We must understand. Or is this a warning that economic turbulence is closer than we think? Well, only time will tell. $80 to $90 is the new benchmark. I think we all should be prepared. Many thanks, Nirmal, for taking out the time and speaking to us here on News 9. Mr. Kohli, always a pleasure to have you with us on the broadcast. All right, then, we've come to the end of In Your Interest. We're going to catch you again tomorrow. Top developments right on the other side. Many thanks for watching.
मेरे केस बैकलॉग को क्लियर करने के लिए एक सिस्टम बनाओ।